In this video, we've got a rather bold entry into the IEM market. Today, we're looking at the Hidizs MS5 5-driver IEM. Let's get into it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. Yeah, so the Hidizs MS5, it's coming in at a rather aggressive price point of $379. Now that puts it up against some pretty tough competition. Things like the Moondrop Blessing 3, things like the Zen's Mengerd T2, and we'll talk about those as well later on. But for now, I just want to show you some of what you get in the box, because it's a pretty decent little package. You get this very nice little carrying case. That is always appreciated. Nice carrying case, and you get a pretty good selection of ear tips as well. And here, if I can get that out, yes. Here we've got some tuning filters. Now a lot of you will be familiar with these already. This kind of thing, you basically just screw.
As long as you don't lose them, like.
So you just screw these into the end of the nozzle, or it becomes the nozzle, and you can get some slight variance on the sound profile with these. Not a big difference, but yeah, there it is. And here is the IEM. So $379. You're looking at one dynamic driver and 4 balanced armature drivers. First of all, let's have a look at this cable, and I gotta say, it is rather a lovely cable. If you are a fan, like I am, of thick cables, you are going to love this one. However, if you like a nice flimsy thin cable, you probably won't like it. But it's a 8-core, it's a mix of copper and silver plated copper wires. Not too much to say about it. Nice aluminium Y split, nice chin slider. Oh, I love the thickness. It's really nice. And these rather interesting 2-pin connectors. Have a look at those. As you can see, the ear hooks are pretty aggressive. That might cause comfort issues for some people. But overall, that is a really nice cable, worthy of an IEM with this kind of price tag. Let's have a look at these shells now, and Hidizs is calling these the Dark Angel, and yeah, you can see why. Sort of some dark blackish wings going on, bit of a rose gold highlight there. The shells, the bulk of the shells is a matte black color. I'll show you what removing the filters looks like. So these are the gold ones, they're the balanced ones. You also get base filters, which are the red ones, and the silver ones, which are, I think they're called hi-fi or something, which basically means a little bit hotter in the treble. So you just unscrew them and they come out just like that, nice and easy. In terms of comfort, yeah, no complaints really, pretty good. Rather large, but nothing out of the ordinary. So let's get right into it and talk about sound, and we'll throw up the graph now. Check that out. So you can see it's a fairly linear frequency response, I would say. Does have a bit of a bass shelf there, slight recession in the core mids, lifted upper mids, and a pretty upfront treble presentation. And yes, that upfront treble does create an overall fairly bright tonality. So these are pretty bright, very lively, very much tuned for treble heads. If you are treble sensitive, you could probably turn the video off now, because these they do get pretty hot in the highs. But let's talk about the bass. And the bass is actually pretty exceptional on these. It's definitely the standout feature, in my opinion, of these IEMs. It's got lovely bass texture, nice weight to it. It's a sort of fairly powerful. It's got this lovely clean leading edges and very well defined bass notes, so you get a nice clean slam that's sure to get your attention. And fans of bass heavy genres like hip hop or EDM, you'll definitely appreciate the way the MS5 handles the low frequencies, because they are pretty tasty. Moving on to the mid-range, the lower mids they kind of lack richness or saturation. They are a bit recessed in the lower mids, but the upper mids come forward. So female vocals get the full representation, very vibrant and lively. Male vocals are a bit on the thinner side. They kind of lack a bit of fullness and power. There's lots of clarity in the mid-range, no worries about that. Loads of clarity, and it's pretty easy to pick out individual instruments and parts of the mix. That said though, the resolution can struggle a little bit when there's a lot of like vigorous crash cymbals and hi-hat action, because the treble is up front and it does kind of cast a little bit of a haze over the nuances of the mid-range. And finally, we've got the treble, and the treble is likely to be the most divisive factor regarding the MS5. It's a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, the treble extension is good and it helps create a bright and energetic sound signature. Treble heads are going to love it. However, there's a distinct lack of sweetness in the treble, and whoops, my stage is just falling apart here, but yeah, a distinct lack of sweetness in the treble, which sometimes makes it sound a bit brittle or even a bit sizzling. Additionally, there is some sibilance, and they're pretty unforgiving on poor recordings. Things like snare drums, for example, can come across as jarringly sharp on some recordings. So yeah, that detail, it does deliver above average detail retrieval, so it's pretty good at micro details, as long as the track or music is not too complex, but it comes at the cost of sharpness. And yeah, for my taste at least, I find these a little bit fatiguing, a little bit too bright. As far as soundstage and technical performance goes, the soundstage on the MS5 is nice and wide, good left to right stereo imaging. However, the stage does have a kind of limited forward depth, and pretty average layering. Although it really depends on the kind of music. I find that things like rock music and heavy metal, the MS5 doesn't fare as well. Once you get into, you know, lots of crash cymbals going on, things don't hold up as well. The center image in the stage is reasonably stable, but vocals and string instruments, they kind of lack a bit of fullness and intimacy. Let's do a couple of quick comparisons, starting with the Moondrop Blessing 3. Now I've had these for, I don't know, about a week or so. The review will be coming soon. So the Blessing 3 comes in at $319, which is significantly cheaper than the MS5. It's about $60 less than the MS5. So you can see where they're placing this in a pretty competitive segment. The Blessing 3 has one extra dynamic driver. It's actually got dual dynamic drivers and 4 BAs, so it's got one extra driver than the MS5. Both of them have sort of bulky shells, but I don't have any comfort issues with either. I find them pretty comfortable, but they do protrude out from my ears a little bit. When it comes to sound quality though, the Blessing 3 and the MS5 have distinct differences that will appeal to different kinds of listeners. Personally, I find the Blessing 3 to be the more desirable of these two, thanks to its warmer tonality and fatigue-free listening experience. While the MS5 does have a notable advantage in micro detail retrieval, this comes at the cost of being fatiguing over prolonged listening sessions. And I find myself needing to lower the volume down or take frequent breaks just to give myself a break from those laser sharp highs. On the other hand, the Blessing 3's warmer tonality and overall smoother presentation allows me to listen for hours on end without experiencing any of that fatigue. So those who prioritize micro details and a more energetic treble will appreciate the MS5. Those who prefer something smoother and more laid back will probably find the Blessing 3 more to their liking. And then there's the Zen's Mangird T2, and I won't pull it out of the box just now. I will tell you what the differences are though. The T2 has a 7 driver configuration. It's got 1 dynamic driver and 6 balanced armature drivers. It comes in at $349, which is $30 less than the MS5 here. The T2 has got more fullness in the bass, and it's got more sub-bass extension as well. And that makes quite an impact on the overall tonality, which is warmer on the T2 and more even compared to the MS5. The T2's mid-range is more forward as well, giving it more intimate presentation and more mid-range body. And this plays a significant part in counterbalancing the treble, which is quite prominent on the T2. It's sort of similar in quantity to the MS5, but it does have that more like treble on the right, remember? So fuller mids, fuller bass, counterbalances that treble. It takes the edge off the treble. That makes it comparatively less bright than the MS5 and less fatiguing as well. The T2's soundstage isn't quite as wide as the MS5, but it does have a little more forward depth. Now, to my ears, the T2's resolution is slightly better, and that's because there isn't so much focus on the highs. The MS5 has slightly better detail retrieval, but depending on the kind of music you're listening to, I think the T2's overall resolution is more consistent. So everybody, that is the Hidizs MS5, and look, it is a pretty good IEM. In some ways the sound reminds me quite a bit of the FIO FH7, believe it or not. But look, coming in at such an aggressive price point, $379, I think is going to be a bit of an ask, especially, you know, coming along the same time basically as the Blessing 3 here, which to my ears is just is a lot more palatable. It doesn't have the same level of detail, but it's just a lot more easygoing. I could live with it as a daily driver, whereas these, fun to listen to in short bursts, but yeah, it does get a bit too bright and harsh in the highs for me. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, Parfam audiophile style. And if you're new here, or if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. And until next time, I'll see you later.